from your website right now, you talk of Founders 41.
We wanted to celebrate 40 years of Paradigm.
Right.
And unfortunately, for the entire world, COVID got in the way.
Yeah.
So we had great aspirations of being able to construct a really interesting flagship speaker.
Yep.
But during COVID, everything became scarce.
Right.
So all development just stopped when it came to using different materials and different sourcing of electronics.
Okay.
And it really, all of a sudden, we went from 39 years to 40 years, and suddenly 41 is knocking on our door.
Right.
And we hadn't had the opportunity to bring out something to celebrate 40 years. So the geniuses that are on our team said, who cares? 40 is just a number.
Yeah.
So let's come out with Founder 41.
Yeah.
And really what it is, it's the same amazing Founder products, but with 3 special finishes.
Okay.
And again, keeping close eye on fashion and trends in the marketplace. What we, and of course many other people have noticed, is these matte finishes,
Yep.
if done a certain way, look spectacular. And so we came up with a beautiful matte red, a beautiful matte blue, which personally is one of my favorites, and then a matte gray finish. And added that to the Founder lineup as custom finishes to celebrate our 41st anniversary, hence the Founder 41. No acoustic changes were needed. And really the Founder series, as the name would suggest, is a celebration of Scott, the founder, coming back into the company and bringing John, who's worked in the company as well for many, many years. I first met John when he was a young teenager, and I hadn't been with the company that long, and hadn't even gone off to university yet. So John has been in and out of the Paradigm facility over a number of years. I've seen John hold roles from inside tech support to field training. John's actually at times left the company to take on custom install positions. So John's been deep in the trenches of 120-degree attics pulling cable. If John's seen and John has done it all. So when it came time to partner with his father from an ownership perspective, it just seemed like a logical next step.
So it's like a family company in a way.
It is, and you and I were talking a little about this before. In today's world, we see so many of these companies just gobbled up. They become part of another company, and this has been going on for a long, long time. We've seen some really good Canadian brands go under acquisition, then just simply disappear. And I don't have to name them, but we all know brands come and go, unfortunately, and we say when bad things happen to good brands. So when we talk about Paradigm, I know that Scott did not want to see Paradigm become another name in the history books. So at the time the equity group began thinking about it's reached its life expectancy, Scott began discussions with Shoreview to reacquire the company. And unfortunately, of course, business is business. And it's sometimes very complex to go back where you were. And fortunate for us, Scott's a persistent guy. And while it seemed many times along the way that Scott was not going to be able to step back in, lo and behold, we were informed one day that the positive news had come forth. Scott, in partnership with his son John, were coming back, acquiring 100%. So Martin Logan, Paradigm, and Anthem were 100% under the control of family. And really what that means is it changes the entire dynamic of what you're doing as a company, what your outlook is, what your product plan development is, timing on anything. Having been through 20 years of the changes within our group, I've seen the positive aspects of private equity. I've seen the challenging aspects of private equity when the economies aren't cooperating with us. And I've seen the very, I don't want to say the dirty, seedy side of the equity business, but when you are challenged financially, the extent that private equity will go to in order to still make money. What I can confidently say under private ownership with Scott and John, these conversations will never happen. And it was witnessed when they first came back in and started working on the Founder project. And of course, everybody is timelines, timelines, timelines. And I remember both Scott and John being at the table saying, it will be ready when it's ready, then we'll introduce it.
They came back in 2019, and then COVID happened. So Founders project basically got postponed to 41.
Right. You know, because the work had already started, we were able to do a lot during COVID. But of course, launching anything during COVID can be challenging, both from a manpower perspective, because of course during COVID, not many people could come into the factory to work.
Right.
So getting permits, getting permission from the government, becoming an essential service where factory workers, varying in the low 200s to over 300 at capacity. There's a lot of employees there that counted on Paradigm, and we counted on them to be building what was the next generation of speakers.
Right.
So yes, certainly there were a lot of challenges, and there were more challenges that Scott and John faced in the very early days that nobody knows about. But just this is rolling with the punches and figuring out how to solve and how to move on. When you look at having the right people in place as well, during COVID, there were a lot of companies that just simply stopped making products.
Right.
When you talk about some receiver companies that we wondered would even come back. Our supply chain, when we would hear from our vendors saying, we can't find the following components, our supply chain would start scouring the earth.
Right.
Source them at much higher prices,
Right.
at our own cost, ship these parts to our vendor and say, now you can build. And so during the entire COVID process, we were building Anthem at a constant rate, supplying the industry when many other brands just said, sorry, we can't build. It wasn't just capacitors, it was ICs, it was, think of the think of the auto industry. You had fields full of vehicles missing computers because they just couldn't build them. But the auto industry kept pumping the vehicles off the line, was saying, we'll eventually get to those computers. Even today, this year I bought another vehicle, and when you're going through the tech spec package on your vehicle, it's missing features because they still can't build them. So my steering wheel was a standard steering wheel because it didn't have capacitive touch. Forgive me, I forget, but there were multiple features in the vehicle that were standard features with that trim that they couldn't provide, so they just deducted a small cost and moved on with their day, because the industry itself is still struggling to get back onto pace.
Right.
So our supply chain, again, scouring the earth, looking for any means they could find these parts on an open market, paying 5, 10, 100 times the prices as what they were before COVID, just so we can continue to build, continue to supply, and continue our work with Anthem.